If you found yourself confused by all the time travel in Avengers Endgame, don't worry, you're not alone. Especially since we were all reeling from the news that Back to the Future is not a realistic depiction of time travel, at least in the MCU. Since your worldview was probably shattered, you might not have noticed a particular hologram which displayed a questionable year which, as far as we know, none of our heroes traveled to during the movie. Or did they? Could one of our heroes have made a detour that we didn't get to see play out in the film? The Marvel Cinematic Universe timeline has gotten a bit muddled over the years, and there have been lots of little movie moments which damage the continuity of time flow. Like when the title card in Spider-Man Homecoming said the movie took place 8 years after the Battle of New York, which took place in 2012, thus putting Homecoming in 2020. But we're not here to drag on Marvel Studios for messing up their own timeline. We've already made a couple of videos about that. In addition to introducing time travel, bringing us Smart Hulk, and letting us know there are maniacs out there who put mayonnaise on hot dogs, Avengers Endgame also did its best to set the timeline straight by definitively dating certain notable events like the Battle of New York and the Guardians of the Galaxy obtaining the orb. But there was one date which left us with way more questions than answers. And it was so subtle you might not have noticed it the first time you watched it. Hawkeye Reddit user CombiWobs noticed an interesting detail in the scene where Nebula brings the Thanos from 2014 into the present day. The screen displays several dates, the first of which is one very familiar to Marvel movie fans, 2012. We all know that's when the Avengers and the Battle of New York took place. Then there's 2009, where our heroes didn't end up traveling to in the movie. Maybe they were considering trying to scoop up the Space Stone prior to the Battle of New York, but couldn't resist the allure of a 3-for-1 special by choosing 2012 instead of going after the Mind Stone, Space Stone, and Time Stone. But the date that has us really curious is 2988. What happened in the year 2988? And did one of our heroes actually travel there? Of course, the year 2988 will happen in the future, but there's no reason for anyone to have gone there during Avengers Endgame. Our heroes knew the danger of messing with the timeline. Hey, we're looking at you, Steve Rogers. And they only did use time travel to go back in time for the Infinity Stones, Steve. So there would be no reason for them to skip ahead a few hundred years just for funsies. Plus, there's the convenient plot point of a scarcity of Pym particles, meaning our heroes weren't doing any sightseeing. So we have to imagine the year 2988 was actually meant to be 2988 BCE, which is a year that actually has some relevance in the MCU. We hate to ask this of you, but you'll have to think all the way back to Thor: The Dark World. 2988 BCE is when the alignment of the 9 realms of Yggdrasil took place. This happens every 500 years and just so happened to occur on this particular year. It was also notable for being the first battle of Svartalheim. You know, when Malekith led the Dark Elves on a quest to destroy the 9 realms using the Reality Stone, also known as the Ether, but, spoiler alert, they lost. Malekith was defeated by Thor's grandpa, Bor, who then hid the Ether because it was deemed too dangerous to leave hanging around. We're guessing that our heroes were never going to go back to 2988 BCE to hang out with Malekith or even touch the conflict between the Dark Elves and the Asgardians. But it's possible 2988 was on the map because it was a time when the Reality Stone could have been taken before it was hidden away. There was a plan to have Thor and Tony Stark travel to Asgard instead of Thor and Rocket. Our heroes would have been going after the Reality Stone and Space Stone, which was kept in Odin's vault for quite some time. But the scene ended up getting scrapped and never made it into the movie. It's entirely possible the number 2988 was just a leftover from that plan that never ended up being used. Maybe it was left in by mistake, or it was an Easter egg. There's also an alternate timeline in the comic books with the designation 2988. It's one in which Wolverine is one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse and wipes out pretty much all villains on the planet. Okay, so maybe that's not going to happen on the big screen, but let us dream. After all, there is going to be a What If show on Disney+, so maybe this was just a really obscure hint. Who could forget that Master Trickster Loki is getting his own show after he vanished during Endgame? Since 2988 was a notable year in Asgardian history, it's possible Loki will end up revisiting it at some point in his upcoming show. Maybe he even did so during Endgame and we just didn't realize it. After all, he was definitely up to something after he took off with the Tesseract. We just don't know what. There have also been rumors that the show will feature Loki traveling to various points throughout history and influencing certain events. If that's true, traveling back to 2988 could be a real possibility. It might even tie into the past of his estranged sister Hela. It seems like that 2988 number might be a remnant of a scrapped Avengers plan that ended up as a fun Easter egg, but we think it would be fun for it to become relevant later. What do you think this date means, and why was it included in Endgame? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section below, and don't forget to subscribe for more from CBR. Bye for now.